in Brooklyn.
So first of all, Michigan, Coney Island. No, you know
I
what?
lost my mic.
You lost
Lord,
it.
You
where'd
lost
it
your.
go?
Yeah, let's make sure we all have our mics on.
Oh, shit.
You have yours on.
I'm
Go
sorry.
under and then click.
It has to be understood about Detroiters, okay? There are certain
Sorry, okay.
rules. There are certain rules. Coney Island is in New York. That's cute. That's not.
Okay.
It's got a Ferris wheel and shit. That's
Cute.
fine and
That's
dandy.
cute.
That's
No,
all
no,
right.
no, no, no.
So that's not real Coney Island.
No, Coney Island is a whole thing. So in Detroit, what a lot of people don't realize is that there are a lot of ethnicities. There are also a lot of ethnicities of white people, right?
Yes.
So we have like a lot of Russians, a lot of Polish people. Paczkis are big around here, around Linton, stuff like that. There are also a lot of Greeks. The Greeks
Sounds spicy white to me, but okay.
Those are the ethnicities of white people. Yeah.
So the spicy and spicier.
So in Detroit, there are these restaurants called Coney Island. Now there are two that are downtown. That if you white and you from the suburbs and you was here back in black and white photo days of Detroit, you think those are the best Coney Islands in Detroit. That's not how it works.
God no.
That's not how it works.
Okay,
The best Coney Island in Detroit. If you ask 10 people on the street where the best Coney Island in Detroit is, you'll get 10 different answers because the best Coney Island is from your hood and it's one. You got other ones that you'll go to.
I'm confusion.
But in your hood, like suburban Coney Islands are not good.
Your cook will be outside smoking a cigarette.
They put chili and cheese on everything. And I'm not talking about like, so if you go somewhere and you get chili cheese fries and it's like beans in the chili, I can't fuck with that. So no, they have this chili that looks questionable.
It's really more, it's closer to dog.
It looks diarrhea-esque.
Yes. It's gonna fuck you up.
But it is delicious.
It's so
I don't
good.
eat red meat.
And then you get sliced.
You'll try it.
Or squeezed cheese. They got like chicken gyros and chicken pitas and all of that
Oh
stuff.
god. Like a salad, like a or
I mean, I don't eat chicken either. I don't eat poultry. I only eat seafood.
She only eats seafood.
That's Christianity.
What do they have there? Seafood.
God, she probably listen. It ain't it's for a very.
We'll get a Burners and some better made hots.
Okay.
Then there are things.
Burners is the ginger ale, right?
Yes.
Yes, we had some. It tastes different.
Yeah. Because it's not ginger ale.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not gentrified.
it's not.
I mean.
It's not gentrified.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. We were talking about the one drop rule.
Right. So the one drop rule is a very American thing. Like maybe the Americas, but I know specifically, I can only speak from our perspective.
United States of America.
Yeah, because I've only been black here. It's a very American thing, and so even people who come here and kind of just become black, like Blackness in South America, like mixed people.
I like that you said that they come here and they become black.
Yeah, they become black, and it's not just a them thing. Like they also get perceived as black, so I don't take away from that struggle or anything like that. But they spent a long time trying to separate themselves from just being us anyway. But like when you have these people who want to talk about we aren't the gatekeepers of blackness and that blackness, we can't project what we identify as blackness onto other people. They flip around and do that same thing.
I hate when people say that.
And it's like,
they be like, "Who do you think you are to gatekeep?" I be like, "Motherfucker, I'm a descendant of American child." Like, black people been here like 400 or 500 years. Like, I think I'm well within my rights to gatekeep. Like, I could gatekeep whatever I want.
Let me tell you. First of my motherfucking name.
Right, like I have the qualifications.
Read my resume. Read my credentials. My folks just left the plantation. My granny.
Yesterday.
My granny, like we know the plantation we came from. Like we ain't been up here all that goddamn long.
I find it to be like mad offensive when people be like, "Who do you think you are to gatekeep?" It's like, so how you gonna be like, well, how are you gonna gatekeep blackness in America? It's like, motherfucker, I can absolutely gatekeep blackness in America. Like, nigga, I got the credentials.
Me and my folks been black in America for a long ass time. Listen to when I speak, we know how this shit. You gonna come over here and try to tell me about my white folks? I know how these.
I know these white people. I know them.
To be fair, they take, so when they over there and they looking at what black people are here.
About who's they?
When we looking at
like black people?
Africans or like people not black American, people who aren't black Americans.
Who black somewhere else.
Okay. Or their version of black or whatever the fuck they call it. But like when they looking at us on media, when they looking at us, it's all about portrayal and like what they internalize for us to be, for us to look like. And so of course when the fuck I get over here, y'all not gonna put me with that bullshit. I don't got shit to do with that.
But I also feel like the flip side of that is that to people that are black somewhere else, I don't feel the need to tell you what is your black experience in Canada, what is your black experience in South Africa, what is your black experience in Britain. What I don't know, so I can't tell you what it is. But people feel like they can come here and tell me what my black experience is here, and I'm not with it.
You've like hinted at it before. so people complain, we get lumped in with America, and that never happens. Like, American exceptionalism never applies to us.
No.
But we, like, people feel like, you know, people talk about how Americans don't know anything about anybody else, but everybody feels like they know and understand what's going on in America because of TV and media. And America has done a very good propaganda job of, like, kind of trying to display.
I like that you use the word propaganda.
Yeah, trying to display, this is what America is, just fireworks and roller coasters. Right. And so they to be fair to them, they think that we're living well because, like, this is what they've seen, and so they think they know us. To be fair to us,
they know us.
Just as you complain about how we are not educated and we don't travel and we don't know how other people are living, you also don't know our experiences. Whatever you saw on TV, whatever you might have read in a book, whatever you
getting
think
back
you
to
know,
a filter. Everything is goes
and
through
you
a
don't know
filter.
no niggas. And so, like, even like a particular rapper, since we're not giving, but a British rapper who
I love him. He's so adorable.
What are we talking about?
Akala.
No, I was talking about 21.
No. So Akala does.
We might as well name names because
so
we can be sure we're on the same page.
But I remember, like, at one point you were arguing with people on social media, as you do a lot, because people be coming for you. But like at one point he kind of jumped in and was like, oh, you know, that's American exceptionalism. In America, Americans can portray anybody, but nobody can portray them. And I feel like they have to view things from their point of view. That's how America does. But, like, we are not a part of that. We are not experiencing, like, the privileges a lot of the time that come along with being American. If there's some privilege in being American somewhere else, that don't do me no fucking good. My ass is here.
That doesn't mean good here.
I literally can't leave. I don't have the resources to get the fuck on the plane.
If I go somewhere else, like, I don't have family who, like, live in the UK who I can go stay with when I buy my expensive.
It ain't no Americans over there. Ain't no Americans gonna be like, yeah, you from America? Come stay with me. Come on, man. We got a community
I think about
center.
that all the time. I be like, yo, if our fucking man-child ass president ever decides to, like, really push that red button on, like, fucking North Korea and shit, Black Americans is just like, well,
we fucked.
Nowhere we could go.
We fucked.
We just better be here, like, woo,
it's like to bring it back to Harry Potter as it always is. When it was him and Voldemort at the end and they fell off the goddamn building, we started this shit together. We gonna end this shit together.
Take it back to Harry Potter as it always
is. To bring it full circle. It's gonna, at the end of this
the frame of reference always goes back to Harry Potter.
At the end of this whole fucking thing, it's
all roads
us and them.
We lead back to Harry.
Right back to the center. Shout out to Joan.
First of all, don't fucking shout her out.
I mean, she wrote it. You gotta give her props.
You know what? I do love that.
I still like Joe. You don't like Joe? What's wrong with Joe?
She is problematic.
She is problematic.
As everybody is,
yes,
though.
That's
she
fair.
is problematic.
Everybody is.
But I kind of feel like Joe being problematic is sort of, it's almost like a mirror image of the times that we're in now. Because you have people that's complaining, like, Harry Potter didn't have any black people, and Harry Potter didn't have any gay people, and Harry Potter didn't have any this or that. So you have, I feel like you do have Joe that's trying to, like, keep up with the times of, like, well, actually, Dumbledore was gay, and this, and this, and this. I think she's just trying to, like, move with the times.
I don't have a problem with Dumbledore being gay, because she did, like, that was, like, 4 or 5 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago.
That
when
was
she
way before.
That was when I was in about 5th grade. That was, like, a while ago.
When she was like, yeah, this is a thing that he was doing and stuff. So, like, that was fine, but, like, just, like, I think that, and this is something that you actually
Dean
said.
Thomas.
First of all, fuck that. I love Dean, but
the one like main black character in the book, Dean Thomas, like his dad had dipped out on
Lavender
the family.
was black too in the books.
Yeah, right.
And in some of the earlier movies, in some of the earlier movies, she was also black. It wasn't until she became a main character.
I didn't know if she was black or white in the books, but I do know that Dean.
Angelina was black too.
Who did they swap out, Crab or Goyle, for like the black kid? I think like the last.
I don't know, but one of them ended up dying. I was like, wait a minute.
I feel like that's just a reflection of the times that we're in. So, because like now everybody is like motherfucking woker than now, and everything becomes an issue.
And even with everything that we are getting done and everything that we not getting done, we also have to stop acting like our language for how we talk about and talk to and portray LGBTQ people hasn't come a long goddamn way. And so if you dig back anywhere, I
see a disagreement face.
Come on. Now I'm not saying that it's good at the very least.
Right.
You know that I step back because this ain't my conversation. But I definitely feel like people have just gotten to a point where like just casual using of the F word and like all of that stuff, it hasn't been something that's been like immediately jumped on.
I think that like that word has went like eradicating that word has went way farther than I mean what like
Ariana Grande. Sorry.
So I just feel like I just feel like you know like white people still want to say nigga so bad, but everybody feelings be hurt if you call somebody a fag. Everybody feelings be hurt. And so, like, I mean, when you think about it like that, like, LGBT, like, the whole, like, that movement has progressed way past anything that, like, the black movement has.
But you cannot say that word. But you cannot say that word.
But that is because
you cannot say that word.
But that's because there are white men who are gay.
Yes, so you cannot say that word. But if you say the N word, it's all this conversation around like,
why can't I say it?
It's just a word. Why can't I say it?
Black folks say it.
Right, but if you say the F word that rhymes with maggot, because I don't even like to say that word, just out of respect, I don't like to say it.
I use all my privilege. Let me tell you, I call one of my homegirls a faggot in a minute. She called me one.
And it's funny because like I'm even like I'm bisexual, like, and I was in a long-term relationship with a woman. It's like a whole thing. But I still really don't even like to say that word. But it's funny because it's like when people say that, like the quote unquote N word or whatever, it's all this conversation around like I should be able to say it. It's just a word. It's this, it's that. But like God forbid if you say like the F word that rhymes with maggot, it's the end of the world. Especially if you're black. Because people love coming out their face like, oh, black people are so homophobic and black people are so this. And, like, people love pathologizing black people. And that shit really fucking bothers me. Like, it really, like, I don't like it at all. It's like, on the one hand, let's not, like, I was going to say let's not even get into, but let's get into. Let's get into how the motherfucking white gays take everything from black people. They love it. They love imitating black women. They love putting on this caricature, this stereotype of black people and black women.
Y'all cooning ass Patrick. Y'all cooning.
Right.
Oh shit.
They love
your
it.
homeboy
They
Giving
love
Taylor.
it. They love it. But God forbid if you be like, oh, F this and that and that, and they be like, no, you can't say that. Oh, black people so homophobic. It's like, but nigga, you're racist.
But that is an issue.
You're racist.
But that is also an issue that I have. So two things, right quick. One, y'all black intellectuals, these black kids who went to college, and these white boys let all these black boys let all these white girls call them nigga. Like that.
Let me stop you there, because it's not just black.
Patrick is a whole coon for Taylor Swift. I said it.
No. We here. I see
he
you.
He loves that white bitch. It's too much.
Man, that sugar water. Anyways.
It's a lot.
But, like, that's not just black intellectuals. Because, I'm telling y'all, I work in the... Like, them white boys that grew up in the black community and stuff like that be in there, they be like, oh, no, they really black. I'm like, no, he's really not. I got his profile. But, like, these
I will give you that.
Like,
they're not black.
no. Like,
and also,
you're white.
And also...
And that's okay.
And also the girls, and you told me it's a certain demographic of the girls, which I get, but the girls who love to, like, your femme black gay men who love to invite the Iggy Azaleas and the Taylor Swifts and the all of them, and it's like
that's hot ass vogue that Iggy did.
And,
like,
and
come
that's
on now.
And I I have a problem with that because
this might be too real for TV.
Because I feel like we are already like it's already a conversation between like creating space for everybody, right? And so like as a black woman, I believe that there can be a space for a feminine black man.
People love white girls. Like they love it. They love it.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because they will play that vulnerable I need you thing to a T. They play into everything that you want to do. You want to provide. You want to make sure that they see
white girl. Yo, we was just in Columbus, and we shout outs to like K.A. Freeman. We was in Columbus, and we was talking to K.A. and he was talking about how like people love talking about how like white men, which is absolutely true. Like white men are racist, and he was like, but like white girls be like so insidious because like white girl, like people love white girls. Like people love white girls. Like black people love white girls. And if it's a white girl with a fat ass, if it's a white girl that want to be down, if it's a white girl that's this, if it's a white girl that, like gay people love white girls, straight people, like gay black people love white girls, straight black people love white girls, like black people love white girls. I don't know what it is. Like black people love Adele. Like black people, like black people, a lot of black people love Adele. A lot of black people love Taylor Swift. A lot of black people love Iggy Azalea.
Like, I do like
black
people. Not as much anymore. I don't know what's going on with Ed.
I fucking love Sam.
Like black people love white girls.
They do.
Like black people make so many excuses for white girls, and I don't know if it's just like the white tears. Like I don't know what it is. it's like we was just talking about like the whole Daniel Caesar and Yes Jules thing. He was like, we're so mean. Like he ran to her defense, and it's not even just like it's like all black people. It's black men. It's black women. It's everybody. Like they love. Like we love white women. And we can say that we don't like white men because like white men are just trash. It's very easy to be like a white man is trash. But it's something about a white girl that we will give a white bitch a pass. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is.
What I'm telling you, because like as a black man, we grow up with this like you have to provide, you have to take care of, and like here comes this dainty or like in the hood not so dainty, like white woman that's like begging you to save her, and so you run to save her. They run to save them because like they need us.
And it's
black
funny
don't need us. They
and
need us.
And I feel like for black women it's the same thing even because for black women it'd be like, oh, you got a white girl in the crew. You gotta look out for she can't dance. You gotta look out for her. Like everybody always picking on her, and that's always the thing. Like everybody's always picking on the white girl, which is literally exactly what like Daniel Caesar, for example, said. He was like, everybody's picking on Yes Jules, but we always picking on them. You know, it's like you have like even like amongst black men, amongst black women, it's like everybody picking on the white girl. We gotta protect her. We gotta save her. Like fuck them.
And then it's like I think it's rough, right? I feel bad for I don't feel bad for, but black men who are trying to like deal with patriarchy, right? So white women at a time were not allowed to work. They just were not. There were just things that they couldn't do. So they didn't know if they were actually capable of doing certain things because they weren't allowed to. Right. Since we've been here, it ain't been a goddamn thing that black men have done that they didn't have our ass out there doing with them. Right. And so black women didn't have that time where we had to like prove ourselves or try to say that we are capable, but not only that,
we can do it. That never applied to black women. Like black bitches was always out in the field. Like, bitch, you can do it, and you will do it, and go do it.
But like even
but
even with black,
you gotta drop that baby in the field and keep picking that cotton.
But even
y'all miss a beat.
Even with black men, like we've always known that like they aren't necessarily stronger than us, so they aren't necessarily more capable than we are because
they hate that.
It's rough, and so you do get these black men who, because of like white patriarchy, want that thing too, where they feel like they're the leaders and they're the providers and they're the this and
it's
they're that. And it's like, well, no, like I know I can do it. I can probably do it better than you. I do this better than you. Like, why can't we just like do this together? But it's this constant struggle. There's never been a time in America where black women couldn't work. There have been times when we didn't make as much money as black men did. They wouldn't let us work in a factory, but y'all have to work somewhere.
It's funny because especially in the black American communities have tended to be matriarchal. And not patriarchal, especially when you take into consideration like mass incarceration, which has like disproportionately affected black men. So like for so many years, decades and decades, you had black men that was being locked up, so you had black women that had to step up and lead communities. Like historically, our communities have been matriarchal, so there is sort of a disconnect because you have this popular narrative that's like women can do it and like women power and this, that, and the third, but then in like black American communities, you'd be like, women have had to do it because the niggas is locked up.
They'll do something.
That's not some shit I do for fun.
Right, like this is not some shit I do for fun. Like this some shit I have to do it, and it's just like such a split between the popular narrative and the black American narrative. It does not reflect us at all.
But then even with that, black American men kind of resent us for it because
it's a brainwashing.
Because so much of male identity and masculinity is tied in really oppression. That's to me what it all comes down to.
Niggas just want to be on top. Somebody want to be in charge of somebody.
But that is what they tell that being a man is, like being on top, and like that's never been a thing for us. And like as you can see, they're all fighting so that doesn't have to be a thing for them either. But it's difficult because it's just so much resentment for it, and
resentment is a good word.
And gender roles are so bad, and not even just for what like patriarchy. What kills me is that patriarchy is actually bad for men. When you feel like you have no worth because you can't work, that's horrible.
And patriarchy is such a white construct. I mean, everything
Isn't
is.
it?
Is it?
Patriarchy is.
Yes,
like when
patriarchy
you look at
absolutely is.
Like patriarchy.
So there was no patriarchy in ancient Africa.
I would like to go back to Africa.
But even like patriarchy and Christianity are so closely intertwined together because like God is the head and then it's the husband and then it's the wife. Like
even if we are gonna go back to quote unquote Africa, if you do study like African history, you do have women that were leaders.
Well, you do, but you also have that like in Viking communities and stuff like that. Like it's just.
Well, I don't know about white Vikings.
Right. But it's like
because they're white.
Sometimes, like I feel like, especially when I talk to like African people, like and it's a very large continent, but like whenever I talk to somebody from Africa, the big thing that they want to push is that Africa isn't a utopia, it isn't all perfect, da 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 da. But so like I'm not, but so then
that's
also,
colonization.
Mm-hmm.
Well, true.
Because you also have to like not. I'm gonna say understand, not saying you don't understand, but just in general, you also have to understand that like that's colonization. Like Africa has been like so hit by colonization. You have like continental Africans that are named like Elizabeth after like Queen Elizabeth in Britain.
True.
Right. So it's like when we talk about sort of like more, because I have studied Africa. People think I don't. They swear I'm fucking stupid. But I have studied Africa. So it's like when you look at like a lot of like historical context of Africa, you did have a lot of matriarchies. You did have a lot of women warriors. You did have a lot of like women that were leading societies. But once you had sort of colonization and patriarchy get introduced, that led to a lot of the sort of mindsets that you have now of like a woman has to do this, this, and this. That I don't want to say that it's not natural, but that was something that was introduced with colonization. So that is sort of like a white construct. That's not necessarily something that was like a part of the indigenous cultures necessarily of Africa, because like I've done hidden figures on like a lot of like women in Africa that were warriors, that were leaders, that led tribes. You know, you have like all these different types of things that before colonization and white patriarchy got introduced into societies, because white people motherfucking poison everything they motherfucking touch, period. You
know, you
before white colonization got introduced, you had whole like, you know, whole societies that were led by women.
That and was even just that. Like all the shit that get done here, usually it's a woman. Like when you look at the shit, like even behind, like in the background or on the forefront.
I don't want to necessarily say that I believe in like gender roles, but I do believe that people are different at different things.
Yeah.
I do believe that people are different at different things. I do believe that like men can have their role. I do believe that women can have their roles. I do believe that just people can be different at different things, and all relationships, communities, societies revolves around people understanding what they're good at.
Absolutely, but what an individual is good at.
Individuals.
When we put it on a gender,
right, individuals.
Because I know men who are not leaders.
No, but gender roles don't even work because
not that it has to be a leader. Not that it has to be a leader, but just like whatever you are good at, you can do. Absolutely. And I do also think that there's something to be said for like whatever you're good at, you can do. And I do think that like European, like Eurocentric ideology introduced ideas into society.
And they can't even keep their church together.
Yes, like exactly. Like it introduced ideas all over the world of like this is what certain types of people are good at. But it's like you had societies that existed before European ideology was introduced. And it's just like, and I definitely think that you can have, like again, like even if you look here in the United States, you had the war on crime, you had the war on drugs, you had mass incarceration. Now, of course, mass incarceration number one was racial. It was race-based. So you have black men getting locked up, you have black women getting locked up, period. But if you also break the numbers down even further, you had more black men that were being locked up than black women. And so what did you have? You had black women that were stepping up to the plate and becoming matriarchs. And so now in the United States, black American communities 9 times out of 10 are matriarchal. So you have black women that lead communities. You have grandma, you have auntie that even if she's not necessarily blood, which we talked about a little bit earlier, even if she's not necessarily blood, she looks out for everybody in the neighborhood. You know, she is a leader. That's not necessarily about quote unquote gender. That's just because that's the way that it played out. Right. But then you can also look historically back through time, and you can see that even going back to Africa, that there were also matriarchies, that there were societies and systems that were ran by women. It wasn't until Eurocentric colonization and ideas of patriarchy got introduced that we got these ideas about men and women and what they need to do and this, that, and the third. However, at the same time, everybody has their own skills. Everybody has their skills. I'm not going to say that just because you're a woman, you automatically fit to lead a matriarchy, because there's some bitches that don't even lead. That's it.
Not a horse to water.
Right. They don't even need to lead a horse to motherfucking water.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna say that just because you're a woman you're fit to lead. I'm not gonna say that just because you're a man you're fit to lead. You feel me?
Yeah.
But I'm also gonna say that here in the United States, because there were certain things that hit black men harder, you did have black women that stepped up to the plate and was like, I gotta lead. You feel me? And then now we have also gotten to a certain point where you have all this resentment and shit that's being fostered.
It's a lot of resentment.
It's a lot of resentment. I love that you used that word earlier
resentment.
because you have people, and I just believe that I feel like you have people that's blaming the wrong thing. It's like
everybody blames the symptom instead of
the cause.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have people that's like, well, black women have black men in terms of jobs and education, and that means that black women are the enemy, and that means that sexism is no longer a thing. Now it's reverse sexism, and now men are being discriminated, this, that, and the third. And it's like, no, reverse sexism is not a thing.
It doesn't exist.
It's like the problem is that we live in a racist society that disproportionately affects black men. That doesn't necessarily mean that black women are your enemy. No. Black women are stepping up specifically because you are being
and that's
hit
why,
by white supremacy. White supremacy is the enemy,
right, and that's
not
why
black
I hate,
women.
Like, the whole patriarchal system when we start talking to black men, because we know, like, we've seen that
people don't understand
happen.
what's going on.
So because, like, so like a woman making more than you, like, because there are women who will not date a man who say that they won't date a man who makes less than them. But I know a whole lot of women who've been taking care of these grown ass men for a long ass time.
You dropping her off at work in her car?
Yeah.
I'm an anti-capitalist, so I just hate the whole concept of like, I'm not gonna date you because you make less money.
To tell for a man to feel like he doesn't have any worth because he doesn't make money, as if like we got children at the house who have to be raised.
Exactly. And
even somebody do that.
Shout out to K.A. Freeman, who we talked to in Columbus, Ohio, before this. K.A. Freeman, because he had said something like, he was like, it was a certain point where him and his wife relocated. They moved to Ohio. His wife was working. He was staying home with the kids. He was raising the kids. And it was sort of like, for him, it was like, I'm a unit. We a unit. Me and my wife, we a unit. We have children. Part of us being a unit, my role as a man, I got to step up. I got to raise the kids. My wife got a certain type of job. I also have a job. He has a job. But it's like, but at the same time, like, these are also my children. I have to, like, step up. I have to raise my children. So it's like, instead of, again, sort of like white patriarchal structures that foster resentment between us, it's like, I got to do what I got to do. You got to do what you got to do. Maybe today I raise the kids and you go to work. Maybe tomorrow you raise the kids and I go to work.
And I've seen that in the hood too. Like, my baby daddy, a whole thing out here. But like his friends, like, grew up over on 7 Mile in the hood and shit like that, and they baby mamas who they were not with would have on their scrubs and they'd go over there. It's 12 of them in the house. I don't know what they in there doing, but they dropping kids off. It's a bunch of dudes with face tattoos and afros and dreads with no shirts on, and there's 17 babies in the house, and babies gonna eat. They're gonna be
That's
all right.
They even when we
parents. And when we talk about single mothers and single parents,
exactly.
Like,
and parenting in general.
Hands-on.
Exactly.
They are.
I was gonna say parenting in general and gender roles and things of that nature. Like, I don't even like the idea that like black men don't father and like black men don't take care of their kids. Like, niggas take care of their kids.
And like, actively, like, they brushing hair and making ponytails.
I was reading some type of shit the other day,
like,
a study.
You will see a house full of men taking care of, it's 3 little babies sleep on the bed, and then it's toddlers running around and somebody outside with the older kids. Like, it's funny, because most, like, black men that I've kind of just known socially, especially when they, like, your hood niggas, are great with fucking children.
They take care of their kids. They love kids.
They are great with other people's kids. I'm great with my son. I don't want to be bothered with nobody else's child.
Niggas be fucking with kids.
They do.
Half the time, bitches be like, get these kids away from me. I don't even like these little kids. Niggas be wanting to play with them and wrestle with them and run and football. Let's say, like, hey, how you are and shit. Like, niggas love hanging out with kids. I be like, please get this child. Nigga, please come get this child. You want to play.
Right. Go.
You like to play.
And they
play with the child, please. Get them out of my face.
Anyway, like, I just, the way black men love children is amazing.
Yeah. I definitely think that it's a weird thing. And again, I think that a lot of stuff is like filtered through like white Eurocentric notions of patriarchy. Everything is sort of filtered through whiteness. Getting back to talking about filters and narratives, it's like white men, for example, are not good with kids. No, they're not. They're weird. They're awkward. They're not even good with other humans.
And also,
they're weirdos.
Also, like, usually kind of pedophilic. Like,
yes.
Like it's a whole, like what?
No, seriously. Like
It's
white men are weird. White men are weird as fuck. And so we get this idea. So we get this idea that like men are not good with children and like patriarchy and this, that, and the third. It's like no, but you're talking about white. I feel like 9 times out of 10 in mainstream society, there should be like an invisible white in front of everything. So when we're talking about like white people aren't good, well, like when we're talking about like men aren't good with kids, you're talking about white men, because like black men be good with kids.
Listening to like white coworkers, because I've worked in environments where it was predominantly like middle-aged white women. Listening to them talk about their issues that they have in their household. That's not to say that there are not black women in oppressive households, because domestic violence is a real fucking thing in the black community. That shit needs to be addressed, yeah. But the way that they kind of like, I've heard them like just get talked down to and like disregarded, like nobody's listening. The complaints that I hear is from a whole
race matters
world.
I'm gonna just say that.
It's just, my goodness.
We have all this stuff that people act like race does not matter. They act like this is how it is for everybody, and it's like no, this is not necessarily how it is in every race and every ethnicity and every community. This is how it is for y'all, because y'all are white. Yeah. And y'all control the popular narrative, so you act like this is the narrative for everybody.
But not even, no shade, not even just white, because
not even just white.
When I look at other ethnicities and I look at how like they're
not black person of color.
They control their lives. They can't do as full-grown adults, and I don't know if it ties into like slavery, like this idea of like, it's a very American thing also. In America, you expected to go out here and try and make it and like figure some shit out, go live your life, get it together, pave your own path. Yeah. But while it can be harmful sometimes, like most of us know that we have our families to go back to if like we fall on our face or some shit like that. But the idea that like your parents gonna tell you where you're gonna go to school, what you're gonna do, what you can do, what you can't, that you never get any sort of.
That's because we kick our kids out at like 16, 17, like go live their life.
I hate that fucking narrative. I do not think that's a thing that happens as often as people try and make it seem like it is.
But like I don't know how it is for women. I know girls say that.
This conversation's so serious.
But no, not even just leave though. Like when I was 17 and my mama told me you starting to smell your piss, either you gonna follow my rules or you not. And I told her I was not. And so I did leave, but it was like, but I'm saying though, but like that's a common thing. Like you get to a certain age and it's like either you're gonna significantly contribute or you're gonna leave. If you can do this shit on your own somewhere else,
Jobber Army.
Period.
I have heard that.
So like, and then like the idea, like, and like with other different races, it's this idea that like, you know, you work.
You're an eternal child.
Yeah, and like black people don't get to be eternal child. We already.
Oh no.
But also
17, my nigga, you grown.
But also
16.
But also, but hear me out. There's like that is not a black thing. That is an American thing. Most people in America believe.
No. White people is
let me finish, please.
Okay, pause. What do we need to do?
You can probably get another 10 minutes.
Okay, because I think this is a good conversation that we're getting into.
Okay, now hear me out. I know y'all ready to hear me out.
I'm listening.
So, in America, in general, we got to keep in mind that shit like child labor laws and everything like that didn't really come into effect like effectively until like the early like mid 1900s. Okay. And so entire families having to contribute, even the concept of like what children are, like kids were working as early as 7. And so the idea of like everybody in the family having to go and fucking work and pitch in is an American thing. And we are black, but we are also Americans. Now that is not to say as families don't improve and they don't get more money and things like that and more resources, that they don't allow their kids to kind of sit down and chill later. When you start looking at your middle class black families, they don't put their kids out immediately. But like that, it definitely is a thing that poor
I agree to an extent.
Do.
I agree only to an extent, because I feel like that's something that, so obviously if we're talking about like Great Depression and this, that, and the third, like obviously that was something that was like apparent of like at a certain age, like the kids go to work, this, that, and the third. But like post Great Depression and introduction of unions and this, that, and the third, like white Americans do not still have that same type of mindset,
because
but black Americans do.
They've got more resources than we do.
I'm calling bullshit, and I'm tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why I'm calling bullshit. Because like if you look at it this way, black kids was out in the field as early as they could start working in the field. They worked in the fields. Right. So like even after slavery or whatever like that, they had a certain kind of mindset. However, that does not mean like okay, so we've gotten to a point now where currently a lot of other races build their children up so that they have opportunities that black people, whether it's because a lot of it's systematic. So a lot of them, they're already poor and disenfranchised. Like black people are already poor and disenfranchised. So like it's a survival thing. Like you are old enough to help provide and bring money into this household, and you are expected to do so. So like a lot of it is not like just like no, you gonna do this shit or get the fuck out because it just is what it is. A lot of it is like survival. But we cannot deny the fact that this is something that happens within the black community.
But I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm not saying that it's not like a thing that happens in the black community. I'm saying that whole idea of like being an adult and going out and like doing things on your own and contributing and having to work, that's also an American thing, and we are American. We are not exempt from.
Do you feel like we're American first, or do you feel like we're black first?
I feel like we're black first. We're definitely black first.
But so we're also informed by American ideology.
We are, like, a lot of our beliefs, and like a lot of black people are capitalists, and a lot of them believe that if you work hard enough, you can work your way out of poverty.
Build yourself up by your bootstraps.
So yeah, build yourself up by your bootstraps is definitely a thing. But what that means for a white American is very different from what that means for a black American.
It's very different, but we are still all trying to chase the same like ideal and kind of still doing the same thing. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that black people don't do it. I'm simply saying that. That's less of like people be saying black people can start doing that. It's just more of an American thing.
But I also feel like for white Americans, due to the infrastructure, they have access to more resources in general.
Well, after stuff like the New Deal, which were socialist things that people try to act like were the New Deal and the veterans.
So it's like a white American feeling like you have to get out there and quote unquote work is different than the idea of a black American.
But they gave their kids a leg up because they had something to build on, and most middle class black people, my son's dad's aunt worked for the city, retired, bought a bunch of houses, gave them to her nephews and stuff like that. She had to go out and work hard and try and do it, but like the kids who came after her got an easier start. They weren't forced to like figure this shit out on their own. And when you get more resources, most people, I'm not saying all, but most people do that for their children. It's just that we haven't had as many resources as other groups have had, like in this country, and so we're still working on the all hands in the pot. Everybody has to contribute. To me, that's like that's been the American experience more than it's been, because even when
it's been a black experience.
Specifically, we are also American. We are also having an American experience. A black experience within America, and it's all of these but. That's American.
But I mean, and I agree that we're all having an American experience. But when you start to look at middle class and all of these different things, the middle class and the higher class are often a little bit more white than they are black. So these people that are able
that's why racism is always going to trump classism. But they run it neck and neck.
But using that ideology, like the reason that these middle class and stuff like that, even the example within the example of the middle class, there's not as many black people that attribute to the middle class. So they're still the exception more so than the rule.
Absolutely.
Okay, but so predominantly that idea of you got to contribute to the household and not having that chance to build is still a black thing that's happening.
But it's not. It remains a black thing that's happening because we've been left behind, as we always are.
Right.
It's a thing that kind of just happened within this country, but because everybody else has been able to progress and systems have been put in place so that we can't, we are still using this antiquated practice of all hands on deck.
I also feel like black Americans especially also have this resistance to accepting certain things. Like black people are very much into I don't want handouts, I don't want help. I don't want this, I don't want that.
That is absolutely,
welfare queens,
that is absolutely true.
But niggas be the last ones to accept the handout. White people are very much if my parents got it, I got it. Black Americans,
black parents will tell your ass you broke.
Exactly. Black Americans will be like, I got it, my nigga. You don't got it. You better get a job. Okay, my nigga, you better get a job. You better open your little savings account. I don't know. So I think that there's also a difference in that white people think more. White Americans think more in the sense of I got it, so you got it.
And even I struggle with that, right? Because the wealthiest people in this country do not work. Hard work is not what makes you successful.
No.
But
your
that's
so I think there's a difference. And I also think that, again,
yeah.
in terms of inheritance, I think that white Americans also think more, again, I got it, so you got it, my children inheritance, this, that, and the third. I think black Americans think more in terms of, like, I got it, so You have to work. You have to earn it. You have to learn. You don't accept handouts.
That's that bullshit. I struggled, so why you ain't gonna have to struggle to get it?
I worked hard. I struggled. So you gonna struggle. Like, you gonna work hard. It's gonna build character. White people is more of I worked, so my children didn't have to work. Mm-hmm. Black Americans, it's more of I worked, so you gonna work.
Because when I talk
niggas is like, you're gonna build you some motherfucking character, my nigga. Like, you better work.
And we talked about that before. It's like, so, like, isn't that the whole point of like a society? Isn't the idea is that we do something so that it's slightly easier for the people coming? Mm-hmm. Like, nigga, we died from polio.
Niggas be like, it's a 10 for me. I'm living good now. Mm-hmm. It's gotta be a 10 for you.
If you do exactly what you need to do, my nigga, you will get there.
I have this argument with my mother all the time. We've been having I keep trying to explain to her, like, I think I read a report last time that said there are like 300,000 available jobs in the country and like 2 million people out of work. There are literally not enough jobs for people to do. So like when people say you gotta work hard, it's like, well, yes, well, sure. But what do we do after we look at the people who have the best grades and who are the most qualified for the job? After we get those 300,000 people hired, what about these other 2 million people who still need a job?
Sorry, of the 300,000 jobs, they ain't gonna be the creme de la creme. Niggas still need janitors.
They are not
That's why I don't fucking understand that wage thing. Because I need a nigga to flip my burger.
We do.
Oh God. But
it's true. We're drunk. I'm just saying.
But even with like
drunk Black Americans.
But even with the minimum wage thing, it's just like I don't care how long it took me to make $15 an hour. I just want you to make $15 an hour. I don't care that like you didn't work as hard as I did to get into this house. There are so many empty houses in Detroit and so many homeless.
I think at that point I'm better than other people, specifically because I worked hard.
That is a thing in California, like, right, they actually did pass a bill so that they would tax themselves more to build housing for the homeless because they got like Skid Row and everything out there. The homelessness is really bad.
Downtown LA.
Yeah, but what they've actually done, like whenever the city tries to like build a building, like people protest because they don't want the building in their neighborhood. So it's like, well, we don't want people to be homeless, but we don't want them here, like in our neighborhood.
That's always the problem. Like with juveniles too. Like they was like, we have this little plot of land and we gonna stick some here. They was like, oh, kids are coming, great. And then they'd be like, well, they're juveniles. It's like, no, get that shit the fuck around here. They can't swim in our lake. Get them out of here. It's ridiculous.
No, we want people to be okay, but like not here.
Not here.
You can't.
So I want to say, and then I guess we'll close out because we're running out of space. What do you guys think would be helpful for Detroit? What, if anything, what do you think will like work here?
Oh, this is my favorite part. Go on, tell it. Go on, tell it, baby.
Quickly.
Go first.
Fine. So, the biggest thing in Detroit is like, so kids' first contact with like the juvenile, like with the system itself is CPS, and like. Really, like as pessimistic and as optimistic as different people are, like the kids are gonna be running this shit in a while. And if we don't start fixing the fucked up kids that we have here, nothing's gonna get better. Because really, it's so fucked up because white people come in, they take over because we don't have people to do the things that we need them to do. So we get these kids some actual support, like actual support within the city. We do a lot of good for the city.
Yeah.
And I think just like support overall and people just learning to be more empathetic to their people in general. I do understand that like poverty, crime and a lot of things like that are like high. Give kids something to do. If we can like create like some resources, or if we learn how to like help people more, it may like kind of help with like the other display that people don't have things. And instead of just writing people off as criminals, if we could view people who do things that we deem poor as still being humans with issues and who are still deserving of a chance, like shit might get
better.
Just this much better. Like people still people.
Yeah.
Even when they do things we don't like.
Even when they do things we don't like. They are still worthy of human decency and like basic necessities.
In theory.
You are a monster.
I think that's good. I think we made it. Did we make it?
We made it.
We made it.
Cool.